Top of the Props is brought to you by Barkingham Palace Dog Grooming at Lemire, 1/10 Holiday Road, Lemire, where every pups are king or queen. Find them on Facebook, Barkingham Palace Dog Grooming, Macarthur. If you'd like to sponsor Top of the Props, contact us, the 81st minute at outlook.com. Alright, so it's week 3, episode 3 of Top of the Props, and we are on a roll. And it just gets better this week because I'll tell you what, you've probably heard it on my Twitter feed and all across Facebook as well. As a tragic Magpies fan growing up in the 90s, out at Arana Park, Campbelltown Stadium, or the sports stadium, whatever you want to call it. This bloke here led the way for many, many years, and then it rolled on through to the West Tigers and eventually ended up with a premiership in 2005. Our guest this week is West Tigers, Magpies, and premiership winning legend John Skandalis. How are you, Skendo?
Good, mate. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. So, look, let's rip right in and let's go back to the start. And you probably get asked this a lot, and you probably talk about this game a lot, particularly with Magpies fans. There wasn't too many out there that night. It was your debut. It was a freezing cold night. It's Friday, May 17th. And you're coming up against a motley crew-looking Penrith Panthers side, and we'll get to them in a second. But as a Sarah Redfern boy, as a Minto lad coming through, and at the time too, a lot of people won't remember, but you know, of course, for that semi-final in '96 at the back end of the year, which you played in as well, the Magpies as a club and as a region had real momentum. What was it like coming in for your first game at 19 years of age, starting in the front row?
Oh, mate, yeah, look, words and, really can't explain the feeling. And I don't think that changes even now to the boys when anyone debuts. I think the excitement starts from the moment Tommy walked in and said, mate, I'm playing you in first grade, and you don't know if I should be scared, nervous or excited. All those feelings sort of come at once. Mate, fantastic, proud. You said, you just mentioned there wasn't much of a crowd, which you're pretty much right. It was probably only, I think, 8,000-9,000, but when you run out, it's like there's 45,000 people out there. So, and then to hear your school friends and your close mates and guys that you played with in your junior league cheering you on, it's a fantastic and surreal feeling.
So, what was Tommy's message before the game? I can just guess what the kind of things that came out of his mouth, but what did he say to you before the game?
I won't repeat everything you said, but you might get a few people switching off. But basically, just said, "Don't give up, mate. Just whatever you do your job, enjoy it, and it's going to be a tough." For some reason, he knew it was going to be a tough match because I think there was a few things in the media saying, he's bringing up this kid who likes to have a blue and all this sort of stuff, and I think that set it up all night. So, mate, he basically just said, "Have a go and don't stop, whatever you do." And that was what I took on board. And mate, I gave myself every opportunity to make a statement, and thankfully I did.
You look physically ready, and we'll touch on this a little bit later as well, but you look mentally ready as well, because for those that don't know, there's about 30 minutes of the match, like the highlights, or if you want to call them lowlights, because it was such a rough game. It's on YouTube for everyone out there. But Brent Stewart, he was a quality front rower. He was a Kiwi too, wasn't he? He got injured the week before. Was that the reason you came in that night?
Yeah, that's correct. He did his knee against Parramatta Stadium, and I was playing Jersey Flegg at the time.
You were playing Flegg?
Flegg back then was 19s, 20s, and you had 21s. So I was playing Flegg, and then you didn't have 21s. You had Flegg, and then you had reserve grade. And I was playing Flegg. I had a couple of games on the bench for reserve grade during the year, and then lucky for me, mate, I was playing great football, and I think Kenny McGuinness at the time was the one that said to Tommy, mate, I think you should give him a go. He's ready to go, and Tommy. Yeah, lucky enough to listen to him and tap me on the shoulder. And unfortunately for Brent Stewart, he had a recap for the year, but that hasn't changed to this day. Most people get their opportunity due to unfortunate, people getting injuries. So I made sure I made the most of it.
Yeah, and if you look at some of these Panthers players, and all due respect to all these blokes, because they all played first grade and they're all hard nuts. But if you look at some of these names in this Penrith team that you took on that night, Waddell, Steve Carter, like I know he was a 5'8", but he was just into everything. Darren Brown, McNamara, Danny Farrer, like all these blokes. Did you know? Like obviously, as you mentioned, there was a bit of talk during the week as well, and that wouldn't have helped your cause. Starting in the front row against all these blokes. So you were prepared for a war before you even got out in the field.
Yeah, we was. We were. I was actually. The way Tommy prepared me, I was. But when you mention those names, and this is no disrespect to those guys, I really didn't know much about them because I was playing flag. So
yep.
It wasn't. It was probably a good thing that I didn't.
Mm.
But now when you look back at it, mate, they were hardheads. They were seasoned NRL first grade, ARL back then ARL first graders. They were. So, especially your Waddell, you struggled to talk about Steve Waddell. Probably the worst person I could have had a think with on the night because I'm sure he had about 100 of them before he got to me. So, seasoned campaigners, and but again, I didn't really care about that. I wasn't focused on them. I was just so nervous and just so worried about myself wanting to put on a good performance. Not only because I wanted to keep playing first grade, it was because I was playing in front of my home crowd. I was. I got to play with guys that I grew up with, Kenny and Kevin McGuinness. We've gone through Minto Cobras together, and then here we are playing first grade together. So there was so many reasons why I wanted to do well, and obviously, not let Tommy down because he gave me this chance. So, but yeah, luckily, I guess I didn't know about those guys because it probably could have been a whole different story.
Yeah, and have you watched that game back on YouTube?
Yeah, I actually.
That's one of the dirtiest games we've ever seen.
Yeah, it was good, mate. I think it was one of the. I think the new rule came out then, and there was a few fines or something. Or they what do you call it? They suspended a few fines and all that sort of stuff. But mate, it was a bit of fun. It was fan. Even better that we won the game. So it was old school rugby league. I'm just glad and happy that I got to be a part of that and experience that a little bit, because that's something that we don't experience anymore or talk about.
And I mentioned momentum before. Now, I was sitting up so if you remember the two old rickety wooden grandstands, I was up in one of them. Those. Yeah, I was up in one of them with my dad and one of my brothers, and we were freezing cold, and I think it would have been about 8 or 9, and apart from, I think one of the memories I've got is Ken McGuinness scoring the winning try right in front of us, but there was another point there too, and for years I thought that it was you, but it was Damien Kennedy. So I mentioned Darren Brown before. There was another scrap in there, and I don't know if you remember on the field or if there was any talk of it, but I'm sure Darren Brown spat on Damien Kennedy that night.
Yeah, you're pretty spot on. I was actually, funny enough, I was with Damien Kennedy the other night.
Oh, there you go.
We had a bit of a reunion, myself, Damien, and Kevin McGuinness, and we were talking about it, and it was Damien Kennedy, and they were face to face, and he put this big golly on his face, and mate, he lost the plot, and we actually didn't know. We at the time we didn't know. We just thought he was just losing his mind, and I think Paul Langback actually slapped him in the face or something. Said, mate, you got to settle down, And after the game when we did the review and all that, we noticed. We saw what had happened, so he didn't miss him, put it that way. So, bit of a grub back, but anyway, it stays on the field.
That's it. Yeah. And you mentioned too that you came through Jersey Flag, and bang, you're in the middle of Campbelltown Stadium or Arana Park, as it was at the time. As a local boy in those mid-90s, now I could feel it as a kid, the momentum, like I touched on a couple of times. When did you realise, when you were a little bit more settled in that first grade side a little bit later in the year, could you feel the sense of something special happening at the Magpies in that 96 season? Obviously we'll talk about the Andrew Willis field goal in a minute, but could you feel that in the community at the time?
Oh, I felt the excitement. I probably was a bit too young and inexperienced to feel the sort of momentum. I was just at that age when it's your first year, first grade, even your second. You're worried about just holding on your position. You're not really focusing on where how the team's going, I guess, in a way. Even when I made the semis, I thought, and we'll talk about this later on, I thought, wow, this is easy. Making semi-final football first year. I was over the moon. I was excited. Probably not as excited as some of the other players because, you talk guys like, Langmack and Craig Coleman and Andrew Leeds, Steve Georgalis at the time, who probably hadn't played semi-finals, for a while. So
Yep.
they were they were switched on, ready to go. Whereas I was like, well, I'm playing one, I'm playing first grade, and two, I'm playing in the semi-finals. How good is this? So I didn't really notice the momentum or the excitement as much as other people did, but
Yep.
I did later on, or post, further down the year. I sort of, you look back and you remember how excited everyone was, and I think it was also the fact that we had so many juniors coming through.
Yeah.
There was myself. If you look at the team, there was myself, Ken McGuinness, and Siri Lang. I don't know if you remember Siri Lang.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he went on and played for Melbourne Storm as well, I think.
That's correct. He was a local junior. I'm trying to think. He was,
Kennedy.
Newton at some Kennedy. Damien Kennedy was Damien Kennedy was originally from Forbes, but he didn't come down. Oh, sorry, not Forbes. Park. So Forbes, and he. Who was Brett Hodgson at a time? Later on in the season.
You said Willie Newton, didn't you?
Willie Newton, Willie Newton. Adam Doyle,
yes.
So all these players were sort of coming through the junior ranks. So we had a really strong sort of representation of young juniors. So that excitement was definitely flowing through.
I'll send Doyley an inbox on Facebook later and let him know that he's got a mention, mate. He'll love that.
Oh, jeez. I don't know what will get bigger, his ass or his head.
Yeah. I do want to mention two guys here, mate, and one of them isn't a front rower because this is supposed to be top of the props. But there's two blokes that apart from yourself, and Andrew Leeds was probably my favourite player coming through at that time. No disrespect, Skando, but you're in the top three.
Yeah, that's all right, mate.
There's two other blokes. I just want to get some feedback on what they were like, maybe to play with, and what they were like as maybe as blokes that off the field training. Cherry Mesher and Harvey Howard, the two very underrated players. I mean, they were they were guns. They were really, really good players, weren't they?
Mate, Cherry Mesher, I'll start with Mesh. He top bloke, you can't meet a nicer, more passionate guy ever. He just, mate, he bled the Magpie, and even when he went to the West Tigers for that couple of season or two, he had passion coming out of him every day, and he showed that even when he went into the coaching side of, well, when I say coaching, the strength and conditioning side of it, his passion and his dedication to his role was, you couldn't question it ever. Funny you mentioned that name because I actually spoke to him today. So he's doing some wonderful things for Batlow, for the Fires. So he's raising, as you know, he's from Batlow, so he's helping raise a bit of money for all that, for all those guys. But as a footballer, mate, just crazy, mental. He we used to call him the Mad Moroccan. So he was just, mate. He had a switch where he would go from this nice placid guy off the field, and then I don't know what it was. He put the jersey on and he'd put a bit of deep heat on, and mate, he just turned into this animal who just wanted to kill people. So, he was fantastic, mate, and I have a lot of respect for Mesh. Harvey Howard, mate, great bloke, funny, loved it. He was a clown, he was the guy that entertained everybody and just you made sure everyone was enjoying themselves and mate, great footballer. Tough. He used to be a winger, funny enough. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, he used to be a winger, so he had a bit of speed behind him, and then he loved his power cleans and his squats. He had legs the size of cannons, mate. They were massive, so I think that helped him. And definitely very underrated. And mate, off he went to Brisbane, and he ended up winning a premiership in 2000.
Yep.
So he had quite a journey. I think I haven't really spoken to Harvey Howard in a while. I'm not really sure what he's up to, but I'm pretty sure he's still in.
Sorry, I was just going to say he's running.
That's right.
He's running a retirement village. He's the manager down in Bowral.
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Oh nice. I'll probably have to try to. Hopefully, we have a reunion when we get out of this stuff and have a reunion and have to catch up. So that's nice. Yeah, no, good blokes, mate. Good picks on both of them because they're really down to earth, passionate guys.
And we'll fast forward a little bit later. Now it's the back end of the season. And a lot of younger fans will remember Monday Night Football, the last version of it, and it was basically made for TV, right? But in the mid-90s when they brought Monday Night Football back, it was huge. And the Magpies, they needed to win this game to stay in the finals hunt. And it wasn't the final round. Some people, their memory gets a little bit hazy and they just talk about the fairy tale field goal and all that stuff. But there was a few rounds after that. But this was a Monday night game against the Bears. I believe at the time we were calling him Jason Trader, the captain of the Bears. He was coming back to Campbelltown. He missed his first goal that night right in front. I want to talk about Tommy's game plan because I watched that Bears game back the other night. Tommy wasn't much of a game plan guy, was he? As a coach, it was more about just getting into him and ripping in and doing your best. But if you watch the way you played against the Bears, you not only beat him in passion, but just the individual talent of the side still got you across the line. How much was it with Tommy, technical and game plans, and how much was it just get out there and rip in for me? You can say 100. You can say 100% passion if you want.
100% passion, mate. He was no. Look, Tommy was all about being the aggressive team, and basically the old school bash him out of the park sort of thing. Yep. He did have a technical side to him, and I think he got a lot of help from at the time. I think it was Wayne Ellis and Mark Egan at the time.
Yep.
That helped him with the technical side, and then later in the years, Paul Langmack was sort of transitioning from that player to, as you know, we all know he went as a coach. So I think that sort of crept in even when he was playing. So he had Paul Langmack, Steve Georgalis, and Andrew Leeds, who at that time were pretty much experienced. We're talking 250-plus football first grade game players. So he had a bit of help around that area too. But a lot of it was about being passionate, being aggressive, not taking a backward step, and putting the fear into them, basically saying they're not going to want to run at you or play against you because they're that scared. So, that Bears game was we were lucky enough to have. You look at the side. I don't know if you remember. Andrew Willis, Cyril Lane, Kevin McGuinness, Brandon Pearson. We had a lot of talent and skill in that team. So you mix that with a few hardheads in the forwards, and we had a good mixture. So, and obviously a sensational kick from Junior. So.
Yeah, and that was a big one too. Now, this is memory as well. I think on the front of the Advertiser, which is one of the local papers out in Campbelltown, one of them on the next week had Andrew Willis on the front cover, and it said that he practiced 10 field goals the week before and missed all of them. And Willie Newton was supposed to take the shot, but he was tackled on the last.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but you're probably right, because Willie Newton did have a fair kick on him. So yeah. I don't remember seeing Junior practicing, but if he did, I'm pretty sure he did.
Could just been a G up from the paper.
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think or he missed all of them, because I don't think he was preparing to kick it anyway. So probably best that he didn't practice, because he slotted the important one anyway. So.
Yeah, and if you look at that too, I mean, you make the semi-finals, you verse Cronulla at Parramatta, you just go down, I think it was 20-12, but it was a fantastic season. You look at 97, it's probably a disappointment, because I think you went down to the Crushers, who were running dead last in the ARL comp, and you missed the semis. And then 98-99, mate, could you feel it as players, particularly 99, that this was the end? And how much did you know about what was happening off the field? Talk about mergers with Canterbury and then Balmain coming at the last second. Did you guys discuss that, or was it just knuckle down and try to play football?
Mate, obviously it crept in some discussions. We tried to forget about it and just let it sort of work itself out. But it's pretty hard when your career and your future lies in other people's hands. Most people are either coming off contract, or they were hoping they were going to be signed by the merger if we did merge with anyone. So it was a tough time. It was quite nervous. I was lucky enough. I was one of them that was still on contract. So for me, it was about do I go to the merger, or do I look for another team, basically. So I was one of the lucky ones. But it was tough. I didn't really feel it coming early in the year. Like we felt. We just wanted to win games. We came last in '98. We got smacked. And I think '98 or '99. One of that. I don't know which one it was, but we hold the record for the highest points scored against. I think it's like 900 and something. So I have that unfortunate title next to my name.
It's not your fault, mate. You've done your job. Blame everyone else.
Yeah, that's what I'll keep doing that until I die. So it was a bit nervous. We were coming last again. We weren't winning games. Well, we weren't even close to winning games. I think we'd won 2 games that year. One was against Penrith by 1 point at Parramatta Stadium, and I think one of them might have been against South at Campbelltown from memory. So we didn't really have a happy year. So we were just hoping, for whatever came out of the merger, we were part of it.
And that's a good lead into my next point, is that when you guys did merge and became the West Tigers, I believe 6 players from the Magpies squad in 1999 went across and made the West Tigers squad. That included yourself, Steve Georgalis, the McGuinness brothers, Cherry Mesher, Brenton Pomery. So they were the 6. Did you guys have to travel into Leichhardt? Is that where you guys were based in that off season leading into 2000? Was that different?
We're based at Leichhardt. Look, they tried to, for the first couple of years, they tried to split it. Do the to make it fair as possible. So they did 2 weeks or 3 weeks at Leichhardt, a week maybe at Campbelltown and things like that. That wasn't really working because there's just so much distraction by moving to different venues and all that sort of stuff. So we by round, I don't know, it might have been each in the off season. I can't really remember, but I think we made the decision to stay at Leichhardt. So travelling to Leichhardt every day from Campbelltown was a new thing for me. But mate, I would have travelled to Gosford if I was going to get to play football. So that didn't really concern me too much. The travel wasn't. I still do it now. I'm still living in Campbelltown and I work at Concord. So it makes no difference to me. I was glad to be part of the team.
And let's go to round 1 now. Obviously, everyone knows John Skandalis scored the first ever try for West Tigers. I believe that's also in your Twitter handle as well, on your Twitter page. Now, I remember too being in the crowd for that one as well. And one of the memories I've got is sitting in the Western grandstand, the old grandstand which survived the knockdown, and that side of that side of the crowd chanting Wes, Wes, and then at the same time, the other side of the field, everyone else is chanting Tigers, Tigers. Could you feel that on the crowd? Was it a different feeling going out in that round 1 game against the Broncos?
To be honest, that's the first time I've heard that, and I never heard that. I never felt that was happening. No, we were, as players, we were joint. We were joint venture. That was us. That's how we spent the off season. You got to remember there was 6 from Magpies. There would have been maybe 6 or 7 from Balmain. Yep. And the rest were made up of.
That's right. Terry Hills and Joe Hopaway.
Terry Hills. Yep. Exactly. So, there was no time for us to sit there and go, oh, it's a West thing or a Balmain thing. Just if we had focused on that as players, we wouldn't have played and done our job. So, from day one, a junior was great. Junior could have easily had a Balmain influence because when I say junior, Wayne Pearce as the coach, he could have had an influence on the more Balmain side, but he was great. He didn't. He knew what his role was, and that was to make sure everyone understood it was West Tigers. So as players, staff, and to a point, I guess most of the administration, we were West Tigers, and that's how we played. So, and as I look to this day, you're still going to have your diehards that unfortunately still just want to barrack either for West or Balmain. But for me and for everybody that played that day, that round 1. We were West Tigers.
Oh, and that's a story for another day. But I look just quickly on that whole Tigers versus Magpies thing now. I mean, that is so far in the past. There's kids that have been born and only know West Tigers, and I think people need to realise that. And I think people are starting to understand on both sides that just let it be, and let's try to move on.
Well, my kids only know me playing for the West Tigers. I shove on a video or they see me in a Magpies jersey and they go, what's that? Who are you playing for there? Like that's, it's not. They think it's in black and white. So that long time ago. So I agree with you there, mate.
Did you get the ball down for that try?
100%.
Did you?
Don't ask Joel Kane. Yeah, don't ask Joel Kane though.
He scored 1,000 points that day, didn't he?
Well, I was going to say you're probably the wrong person to ask, but do you remember how many tries he scored?
I want to say 3, but I'm not going to. Was it 3?
No, you're correct. That's the problem. See, that's the problem with Joel Kane. See, he scored 3 tries, but I scored 1. But no one even remembers how many tries he scored. No one even remembers that out of the 24 points that he scored, that he scored 20 of them. And no one even cares. They all just remember the first try.
John, mate, it's the butterfly effect. You've got to let him know that if you don't score that first try, he doesn't score 3 tries after that.
Exactly. So he needs to be very grateful. It was a try, mate. Fair and square. TRY, try.
Just to go back quickly, you talked about the pre-season leading into 2000. There's a good video. I think it's a 2-part series that the Footy Show did at the time, and you can see that on YouTube. I think it goes right through the pre-season into that first game, and there's cameras in the sheds at half-time and all the rest. And I'm pretty sure you guys, like, it ended up being a draw, but I'm sure Craig Field got the ball on about the 30 right in front of the sticks, and he should have taken a shot at field goal, and he passed the ball for some reason. But I don't know why he did that. But anyway, it was a 24-all draw, and it was a good start of the year. I want to talk about something that also happened in 2000. Now, you guys are sitting second on the ladder, leading into round 18. So we're almost at the end of the season, John. And the week before, you're playing the Snow, which is a historic game down in Canberra. You just go down in that one. Now, Sunday afternoon at Penrith Stadium, the first half, I'm pretty sure this game's on YouTube as well. You absolutely give it to the Panthers. 31-8 at halftime, and it just looks like you're going to put 70 or 80 on them and come back down the Northern Road and get hammered at West Leagues that night and keep rolling on. But second half, pull a tour, and they just go mad, and you end up losing 32-31. Can you remember that day? Or was it just all happened in the blink of an eye and that was it?
Very, very clearly I remember that day because it was almost the start of our downfall for the year.
Yep.
I remember the game. We were playing great football. Game plan was working well. Hopewadi was doing his WWF wrestling on the pole and I think that's probably the start of where they got really pissed off because Matt Adamson at the time stood in his way and pushed him out of the way because we were just running amok on him like you said. And then they did two things. They changed Big Tony Pulatua to the right side. He was playing on the left, and they just kept giving him the ball. That was the two things they did.
Yeah.
So once they did that, I don't know what happened and why it happened, but we just leaked points and. Yeah, they came back and, like you said, beat us 32-31. And I think from then on, and I don't know what happened, but the wheels fell off, unfortunately.
Yeah, and speaking of, I've just got the record here, and I won't take too long on this, John, but you went loss, win, then 4 straight losses, ended up coming 10th. So, I mean...
Typical West Tigers, 9th or 10th, isn't it? That's what we do.
Yeah, exactly right. But I want to go back a little bit further before, or maybe it came after that. I can't remember from memory, but there was a night down at Olympic Park in Melbourne, and I think it was the night Jared McCracken got dropped on his head by Marcus Bai and Steve Carney. Even before that happened, I remember there was a few injuries. Ken McGuinness played 5'8" that night, and he'd done a pretty good job from memory. But did it just become, the harder you tried, the further you sunk?
Yeah, we ran out of troops as well. Like you said, we lost McCracken, we lost Hopewadi to an elbow. We lost, I think, Owen Craig got injured at the time. Who else was it? There was a couple more, and I can't remember. But we did have unfortunately a pretty big injury toll towards the end, and that just and being a young club too, we weren't really, in terms of depth, we didn't have that, that depth to sort of come up and, I think Bengali might have made his debut at the time. I can't remember if Luke O'Donnell, he might have been the year after, but we had a few. Yeah,
he's around that time. Yep.
Yeah, so I think we had a few people kids that were coming through, but they just weren't, they just hadn't played any football to sort of make a dent for us. So so we did have a unfortunate run of injury, but unfortunately that's every team as well. So we just didn't handle it right, and like you said, we went from second to 10th, which was unfortunate for us.
Yeah, and 01, 02 kind of write-off seasons. Change of coach, Terry Lamb comes in, a few dramas and a couple of suspensions for off-field stuff. But through that time as well, you also, through 2001 to 2003, a young Lebanese bloke comes in and starts developing. Robbie Farray comes in at dummy half, plays a few games. I think for a while there, he interchanged with Ben Gallier. Brett Hodgson comes back. Tim Sheens brings down Scott Prince from the Cowboys. And a little skinny Kiwi kid called Benji Marshall debuts one Sunday afternoon at Campbelltown against the Knights, and he's put 50 on him. You've also won the sevens in 2004. Yep. It was building nicely because from memory as well, 2004 you missed the semis in the last game. You lost to the Knights in Newcastle, I think it was, and that would have got you to the semis in 04, wouldn't it?
Correct. Yeah, we were lost to who was it? At Campbelltown first, which we needed to win. I think we had to win 1 out of the last 3 or something.
Yeah, okay.
1 out of the last. So I can't remember. No, sorry, it was 2 out of the last 3 we had to win, and we won. Sorry, we did win 1 at Campbelltown. Then we needed to beat Newcastle, which you're right, and it was Robbie O'Davis' last game, which was always going to be tough to win in Newcastle when one of their favourite sons is retiring. And they unfortunately they beat us, and we missed out again on the semi-final. Well, when I say again, we missed out on the semis spot. But yeah, we learned a lot from that year. So if there's anything to take out of it, it was probably a good thing for us.
Was that Robbie O'Davis farewell game? Was that the one where Robbie Beckett put his nose right across, like smashed O'Davis's nose across his face with a shoulder charge?
It was actually.
Am I wrong?
No,
That's wrong.
You're right. He did smash his nose, but it wasn't from that. It was from from memory, and I probably have to go back. I'm pretty sure the whistle had blown, and Robbie Davis was coming in to run the ball, finish the game. But whoever came in, I can't remember who the forward was, came in and just whacked him one, so basically tackled him, but he tacked him around the head and ended up breaking his nose. In his last game, yeah, I'm pretty sure, unless he did that a few weeks prior, and then he just redid it again that game. So I can't remember. I just remember his nose being all over the place. So,
yeah, that would have been it. Would you stay in Newcastle that night for a drink, or would you come straight back down?
Nah, I think we came back. I was devastated, to be honest. I still remember being pretty devastated because I was like 28, 29 at the time. I hadn't played semi since '96. Again, another year had passed, and I thought, well, I guess this is my fate, to be one of those guys that plays 200 plus games and never get to play in a semi-final or a grand final. So, I remember being pretty devastated, but I felt better just in time for Mad Monday, so it was okay.
Would you think about that? Like after a big game, it takes you a while to get to bed, and some players don't get to bed till about 3 or 4 in the morning because of the adrenaline. Would you think about that your last thoughts when you roll over, am I ever going to play semis? You watch, you're probably having a beer at a mate's house and you're watching grand finals and all this stuff. Would you think about that in your own head, and would it race and say, am I ever going to get to do this?
100%. And I think any person, footballer, would lie if they said they didn't. You play and you dream to be there. You want to win a grand final. You want the ultimate prize. Origins in Australia and all that, they're awesome, and everyone strives to do that as well. But to win a grand final with guys that you've spent basically 10 months of your life with, and to be part of history forever, is what everyone strives to do. So you don't get to do it. I think I can't speak for anyone. I can't really say that because I did, but I still think now if I didn't get to do it, and I don't know if I could watch a grand final again or semi-final, because I'd be. It's not that I didn't want it or like it. I think I'd just be jealous that I didn't get to do it. So I feel so privileged and honoured that I did get to win one.
All right, so we're going to talk about 2005 now, and a lot of people out there want us to break down 2005, and that's fair enough too. And I'm sure you speak about this more than any other season in your career. It starts in round 1. You go down to Parramatta, and it ends up 28-12 or 30-10, whatever it is, and it's kind of all right. Well, a lot of experts would go, all right. Well, West Tigers, they might make 8th, they might make 9th, and then round 2 and round 3, you beat the Bulldogs in round 2, the defending premiers, 37-36 at Homebush, in an amazing game, and then round 3, I know the Bulldogs won the comp in 04, but the Roosters through about 2002 to about 2004, those 3 years, they were the absolute benchmark, and you beat them 32-26, also away, and that one's at Sydney Football Stadium. That's an amazing 2 weeks of football, and to do it the way you did, that started something later in the year that no one could imagine. Like no one had any right. The West Tigers players, yourself, Tim Sheens, anyone, fans out there would have never thought that those 2 games would have started or led to something later in the year that ended up happening, and that was a grand final win.
Yeah, mate, I think you're pretty spot on there. We were, when you lose the first game or first 2 games or whatever it is, people normally go back to the previous year, go, oh, here they go again. Yeah, I think we were touted. We weren't really tipped to even get to the semis because we were such a young side, and we had so many players making their debut, so they didn't really give us too much of a chance. However, like every team does in off season, you build trust and you build belief, and within the playing group, you know what you're capable of, and after spending an off season watching Benji, Robbie, Chris Hines, and Bryce Gibbs, Liam Fortin do what they what they do and how great they were in off season, I went in with belief and probably more belief than I had ever before. So, but yeah, you do get to that first round and you unfortunately lose and you go, oh crap, this could be a long year. But you stay strong, and that's why Tim Sheens is such a great coach. He makes sure you continue to work hard and keep believing that you can do it.
So after those 2 games, you go to Christchurch and you beat the Warriors, but then from there you got 4 straight losses, 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And so from there, same thing. West Tigers, good side, great to watch. Everyone back then, and this is for years to come. Everyone loved watching West Tigers. Sunday afternoon, wherever it was just amazing to watch. But then from round 10, you guys win 11 and you only lose 3. And I still get people at the pub, and they like ribbing me and saying, "Oh, West Tigers, it was they got lucky. It was a soft comp. All these things." If you go through and look at the teams you won, you didn't just beat the top teams like Parramatta, St George and Brisbane, or St George Illawarra and Brisbane. They were the top teams in 2005. You didn't just beat them, but you put real points on them, all of them.
Yeah,
even in the semi-finals, you smashed them.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, mate. Because people say they are the Dragons, but you think about it, we did beat them. We beat them during the season.
Yep.
Not only did we beat them, we smashed them, and also in the semi-finals where they had their strongest team. I don't think they had anyone out at the time. So, we were playing, and I go back to we believed in each other and we trained so hard with each other. We knew what we were capable of, and you can't at that time. You don't think of that. I didn't. If you asked me at round 9 in 2005, can you feel something? I probably would have said no. I'm glad that we're winning and we're playing well.
Yeah.
But as as it happens and you get through the year and you look back at it now, you go, well, yeah, we actually played, free style football where we just enjoyed each other's style, and we backed our off season training on the field because we did. Mate, I don't think I ever passed so many balls in my life. Sheensy made us pass. For everyone, he wanted everybody on the field. Doesn't matter if you're a fullback or front row, or whatever. You have to be able to pass the ball because it's the basic of the game to be able to catch and pass. If you can't do that, then you're basically just a battering ram. So everybody knew how to throw a nice ball. Everyone knew how to catch and pass. He wasn't scared for you to. If you wanted to chip and chase something, I think he didn't care what position, as long as you practiced it at training. You could do it on the field. He will let you do it on the field. So that's the type of team and that's the type of style we played. And again, we backed each other in the field with it. Benji probably threw, 10 balls on the ground before, and maybe 2 really good ones, but we knew the good ones would really pay off. So that was the type of player he was.
And you mentioned Tim Sheens there. Does it show how great a coach he was? Because some coaches, and I'm just off the top of my head, some of the coaches today, they're very stuck, or not stuck in their ways, but they've got absolute ways that they coach, and clubs bring coaches in for players to play under that style. Where you look at Tim Sheens with that 2005 team, and I think you just touched on it. He understood the players he had. So he changed his game plans and his systems to encompass what those players could do, rather than try to make those players play to an absolute structured game plan and do it his way. He let you guys play the way you could get the most out of yourselves. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm pretty smart. You're spot on. You got to think back to, we weren't the biggest in terms of forward packs, for example. We weren't the biggest pack and I put my hand up for that. I know we weren't the biggest pack, and however, we were mobile pack. We knew we had skill. You had guys like Toddy Payton who really was a halfback in a front row's body. Probably one of my skillful front rows I'd played with. So he utilised his skill to hook up with Benji and Farah and Prince at the time. However, because we were so mobile and we weren't the biggest, we had to move around those big packs like the Broncos and the Storms and Penrith at the time. So if you watch, and I'm sure you did, you watched a lot of our games. It's all about bodies in motion. Everybody was moving. There was no one sitting back and waiting for the next play. It was all about, okay, let's all push up and making sure that, because Benji was unpredictable. We didn't know what the hell I don't think Benji knew what he was doing back then. So, whereas the good mixture, and this is again, Sheens is, experience and brilliance was he partnered him up with Princey. Princey was the cool head. Princey was the guy that was going to stick to structure and stick to a game plan where we needed to. And on the other side, you had this other kid who was Benji, who said, stuff that, I'll just throw the ball or run the ball whenever I want, sort of thing. So it was a great balance, and Shanzi knew how to sort of get the best out of those combinations.
And we mentioned the Roosters before, and what Ricky Stewart, and I think he had some help there too from some forwards coaches when he first went into his job at the Roosters. He completely changed the Roosters and the game itself, where it was just annihilation. Like their line, their defensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just an absolute blitzkrieg, and they killed sides. But what you guys did 12 months later in 2005, within 12 months, you changed the game again with how you guys played. Do you understand that when you look at the early 2000s, Roosters, Canterbury, big full packs, destruction at the line, and then all of a sudden West Tigers playing touch footy? I mean, it happened all so quickly. Do you think you actually surprised everyone and you snuck up on everyone? And did teams, could you feel it on the field that teams were scared of your potency with the ball in hand? Could you hear it on the field, the chatter and whatnot?
Yeah, I think probably later in the year, yes. I think so, yeah. I still remember, I don't remember where it was, but it was a bit of a comment. It was one of the papers I remember reading, and they were saying, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think the Tigers? How do you think they're going to come out?" And one of the comments was, "Mate, we don't know what they're going to do. You know, you've got kids like Benji Marshall throwing the ball behind his back or under his arm or whatever he's doing. Then you've got Todd Payton, who's a front row, throwing the ball, 20, 30 meters, sort of thing. So, you could feel that people we were very unpredictable. We didn't have a style. They didn't really know our style at the time. And look, it wasn't an attacking style, which I definitely, everybody knows that. We had an attacking flair, and defence was probably took a back seat sometimes. But, we were good enough. We were just a team that was good enough to score more points and defend when we needed to. Because you look at some of those scores, people say we weren't a defensive team, but if you go through the season, you look at, I still remember some of the games that we played. Brisbane, for example, in the semis, they scored one try against us. We scored 34.
Yep.
You look at, during the season, we played Bulldogs, and I think the score was 52-2 or 56-6, whatever it was.
Homebush, I think it was.
Homebush. So if you look through the season, there were games there where we put points on and we did defend well. So we had a pretty good balance.
All right, so let's get to it. Grand final night. It's the biggest game of your career. And we spoke about it before, all these years of self-doubt, a little bit of jealousy looking at all these other people on grand final night. You went through the absolute darkest times of the Magpies in the late 90s. You would have seen your fair share of struggles at West Tigers and changes at the club and, inter-club politics and all these other things. And for a kid from Minto who just wanted to tuck the ball in his arm and play football and hold the trophy up at the end of the year, can you explain what it felt like when you knew the game was won, which I think came in the grand final after Josh Hannay missed a conversion and you guys went up on the sideline? What did it feel like at that moment did it sink in straight away or did it take a while?
Oh, mate. Yeah, look, I can't. Again, it's almost like, trying to explain my first grade debut. Satisfaction was number one. Was probably the most satisfying feeling that I've ever experienced. When I say obviously sporting wise, career wise, and then just joy. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe this has actually happened. I remember they were pulling me off. They were trying to take me off dragging me back on the field because I kept trying to run, but like I was celebrating even though the hooter hadn't. I think when Toddy had scored that last try,
the big hombre.
The big hombre. I was trying to run back on the field, but they were trying to get me off because Sheens was worried that they would punish us or penalise us for for you getting on the field. So, to put it in words, mate, it was all about satisfaction and joy. It was an unbelievable feeling. I didn't know if I could smile, cry, or what it was. It was just all those mixed emotions.
And we talked about before, some clubs or most clubs, they go back and the Roosters or whoever it is last year, they usually go back to their leagues club or they go back to their local footy ground and celebrate with the fans. How many grand final parties did you guys have? You had one at Leichhardt, Campbelltown. You guys were all over the place for about 7 days.
Yeah, funny enough, we went back to West Ashfield Leeds Club.
Mm-hmm.
We threw machines in the crowd and he did a bit of body surfing. That was fun.
Did he?
Yeah, it was great. He loved it. So we went there, and then we ended up at Balmain Leeds Club, and it took us 40 minutes just to get up to the stairs, and then we ended up on the balcony for about an hour, just spraying bottled water, champagne to everybody.
Yep.
And that lasted till 7 o'clock in the morning. However, we had to make a trip back to Campbelltown on the bus. But the worst part about it was Steve Noyce, who was our CEO at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want us to be drunk or seen we were drinking.
You're kidding.
So we were pretty hungover. So we all jumped on the bus and he said, "Look, guys, you're just going to give me 4 hours." And we were like, "Are you serious?" He goes, 4 hours, no alcohol. So we made the trip back to Campbelltown Stadium. We did the trophy, which I, was humbled and proud enough to be able to walk into Campbelltown Stadium with the trophy in my hand, which was the most, proudest feeling I've ever experienced. Because, I'd played all my junior football there and I'd played a few grand finals for Winter Cobras on the same ground. And here I am walking onto the field with a NRL trophy. So that was awesome. I think, I can't remember how many people were there, maybe 5,000 people there. So we did that for a few hours, and then we had to jump back on the bus and we had to do the Balmain, the Leichhardt Oval, same thing.
Yep.
And then we were released to the public after that, and from then we went for a few days celebrating.
Who were the last ones standing? Without giving away too many details, who were the last ones?
I think myself, Daniel Fitzhenry was still.
Daniel Fitzhenry.
Yeah, he lost his ring on Anzac Parade, and some old lady found it. Thank God. So, myself, Daniel Fitzhenry. We had so Mark O'Neill. There's a funny one. Mark O'Neill had a bet with one of the guys, his mate. I don't know if he was the licensee or what he did. He ran Epping Pub, and the guy had a bet with him with Mark O'Neill. Probably maybe around 24 or something like that. I can't remember where it was. And he said, "Look, if you win the grand final, I'll shout you Bengalese Bucks night," because Bengalese was getting married. And so, mate, 3 days later, Mark O'Neill rings up the guy from Epping Pub and said, "Mate, are you going to honour that bet?" He goes, "Yeah, no worries." So we spent one whole Friday / Saturday morning at Epping Pub, which I don't know what the bill was, but he shouted us and he looked after us. So that was one of many. And then I think we lasted. I think on and off we went for about 3 weeks, something like that. So
how much sleep did you get?
Oh, very little. Yeah, very little. So I've never enjoyed getting back home ever that much because I was
I'll bet. Turn the blinds down, roll over for a few days.
Yeah, so I made the most of it, put it that way.
So look, I want to go back to your individual career a bit more, and funnily enough, there's a few videos of you scrapping on YouTube, John. So apart
not me, mate. Must have been someone else.
Apart from the '96 game, which was your debut, which was just total anarchy, there's a Skandalis versus Justin Smith, who was a rock solid lock forward that played for St George Illawarra and South. That's on YouTube from 2003. There's also another one where you went with Paul Gallen in 2004. But the one I want to talk about is a game against the Dragons at Campbelltown, another Friday night game. And I don't know what it is about Friday night games at Campbelltown. I think it's just because we never got any that everyone was so fired up. But this one's on YouTube as well. So there's a huge fight in the southeastern corner of the ground between John Hopewadi and Terry Lamey, who was a Steelers junior. They get sent off. Lee Murphy and Darren Senna got sin bin. I don't know how Senna got sin bin. That's a shock. And the next play after that, Trent Barrett comes out of the line and hits Justin Doyle off the ball. And I don't know anything about Justin Doyle, but from what I can see, he's a loose cannon. And Doyle starts just throwing haymakers on Barrett's chin. Now, I don't want to talk about the fight because we've spoken about plenty of fighting tonight, which is fantastic. But what I want to mention is after that next convention with the referee and the touch judges, the kick goes into touch, and John Skandalis takes the next hit up. Now that is to me that's your career in a nutshell. To me, is that you put your hand up, even when you weren't involved in any of that over that 5 minute period, but you took the brunt on that next run. And going back to that Penrith game as well, I think you had 20 hit-ups, 19 years old against all these hardheads like we talked about before. Did you feel like that was a badge of honour, that you took the next run, or was that just kind of, you were there, that was your job?
Bit of both, I think, mate. It was my job. I enjoyed it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, and I say to some of the kids that when they ask questions about, what it's like and what do you need to do to be a first grader, and I said, you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy. It might sound a bit crazy, I guess, but you have to enjoy being hit. You have to enjoy hitting. I don't know what it is. You just got that challenge in yourself to go, well, you know what? They're going to come at me as hard as possible.
Yep.
I know they're pissed off. They want to rip my head off, but I want to see how far I can get past them.
Yep.
And you got to enjoy the contact, number one, because obviously it's a brutal sport. It's not out there to say sorry to someone. It's about, okay, this guy's going to kill me, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the same back. So.
Yep.
Yeah, to be a badge of honour, I guess you could say, but also, mate, I really loved it. I really did love it, and after the game, you look back at it and you go, wow, that was so much fun. Let's do it again, sort of thing. So, nothing. I didn't think about it, I guess, at the time. I just did what I had to do.
And you can see that too on those YouTube clips as well. That after the scrap, you're not short of a word with the boys as well when you're going in, getting warned by the ref or whatever. So I guess it's a little bit of that on-field. With the West Tigers as well, I guess this is another question. I guess no one really talks about John Skandalis, the leader. Were you more like, I'm going to lead by example? Because I know you did get to captain Huddersfield when you went to England as well. And I guess that the question in there is what was it like to actually lead a professional team onto the field? But Did you have much to say when you were in that captain's role, or did you always feel like you were always a leader of the team anyway, so it didn't matter if you were captain or not, and it was your job to lead the side forward?
Yeah, pretty much what you just said there, mate. Captain is, I did it with my actions. I wanted to make sure that, if I was going forward or doing my job, that everyone would do theirs as well. That was me in a nutshell, basically. Mate, it's fantastic to captain the team. As a professional sports person, definitely you get this, I guess, this different sense of responsibility. I didn't get to do it with the Tigers, but like you said, I felt that I needed to do it as on the field and show them that if I didn't take a backward step, and that's how I was brought up through my career through Tommy. I never wanted to seem like, no matter how tough it got or how aggressive the game got, I never wanted to show weakness or show that I was going to take a backward step. So, and that's, if I did that through my career and that's how I was remembered, well, then I'm a happy man.
Well, you've done that, mate, absolutely. And I got one more question for you before I let you go. You played 4 games for City Origin, 02, 04, 05, 06. Now, I tried to research this to try to find an article, but I know for a fact from my memory that before one of these games, and you might be able to enlighten me and tell me which year it was, where the New South Wales Rugby League officials came out and said, this is a dead set, absolute, guaranteed State of Origin trial. You went out and you were best on field in one of these games. Can you remember which one it was? Because you didn't get picked and you never got your Blues jersey.
Yeah, it was 2002. It was my first Origin.
Yep.
Sorry, my first city game.
Where was that? Was that Wagga? Where was that one?
Correct. Yeah, it was Wagga. Yeah, it was Wagga. So I remember I remember clear. You're pretty spot on. They came in. Phil Gould came in and spoke to us and said, yeah, this is basically a dead set trial match for the Blues. And I thought, wow, got to give everything here. So lucky enough, like you said, I had a pretty good game. I think I scored a try that night as well. And it just wasn't to be. Look, people say, do you regret it? I don't regret anything because I gave my best shot.
It's not your fault, right?
Yeah, so I don't regret not being picked. I definitely, I guess, not regret that I didn't play it. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm sad that I didn't get to play it because it would have been a sensational experience to represent your state and then hopefully have a chance to make a name for myself in terms of the Aussie squad as well. But look, it just wasn't meant to be at that time. I think the Blues were winning anyway, so it would have been pretty hard to change the team anyway. So But I'm just glad that I gave it every shot to get myself a spot in there.
It would have been nice if Gus didn't come in and say that before the game, though. Surely.
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Who knows? I probably wouldn't have played as good then.
Yeah.
Maybe
Maybe.
that was a good thing. So everyone remembers me for not being picked because I played so well. So maybe I wouldn't have got that tag. So it worked out pretty good for me. So yeah, it is what it is, mate. You can't. You know, if I look back on those things and dwell on it too much, I'd have a pretty, I'd be disappointed all the time. So I don't dwell on it. I go with the mindset of I did the best. I gave myself the best opportunity to be picked, and unfortunately, at that time I wasn't. So there's not much I can do about it.
If you stepped outside of yourself for a second and just put your footy hat on for a minute, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical, which might be hard to answer, but if John Skandalis was a Queenslander, how many games would John Skandalis have played for the Maroons?
I don't know, mate, because that's hard. That's a hard one. Because if you think about the Queenslanders that put that jersey on, mate, you're talking your Webke, Sievers, who else? There's Talos, there's
Martin Lang, and all these other blokes.
Martin Lang, mate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good players, great players who have played for that team. So who knows, mate? I'm probably not the one to answer that. I reckon that's a tough one.
You're a humble man, John Skandalis.
Yeah.
Good on you, John. Thank you very much, mate. I do appreciate it. And we'll get you on again very, very soon. And we do appreciate your time tonight. John Skandalis, you're a legend. It's been a fantastic chat. And there's plenty more to talk. As I said, we'll get you on another time. There's plenty more to chat about.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.